Welcome to the Candidly Crawford podcast. This is episode 7, Church Life Balance Part 2, featuring guests Dr. Robert and Stacey Lyons.
We crack up because, nobody thinks about a minister until it's time to pray for food or something.
Nick get called on all the time.
Every family dinner. Hey, minister, can you pray? I'm like, again, this is your house too.
Wait until you get called to preach a funeral of somebody who you do not know.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, I mean, it's and especially, I had some cousins, and on their mama's side, their father, their grandma passed away, and I knew her name was Bessie. I knew Miss Bessie, but I didn't know Miss Bessie.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And wound up preaching her funeral, and there was another lady at our church who nobody knew, but she one of her relatives went to our church.
Oh, wow.
And my pastor wasn't available, so here I go, right? And so it's you have to be ready. But see, and I don't know if this is gonna kind of be one of the other questions, but Stacey, Pastor Hunter asked me to preach. It was Trevesta's aunts, who she probably wasn't that close to. Preach her aunt's funeral. It's on Saturday at 11. What you doing? Unfortunately at times, and I hope I've gotten better. I hope. Unfortunately at times, I have accepted invitations without first checking with my wife about something. Oh, remember, Robert, we got this to do.
Yeah.
Oh, but honey, I forgot to tell you that. And that's where the tension comes in. And it's just being on each other's calendars. Because with ministry, unfortunately, you're called upon to do a lot.
And it's unpredictable at times.
It's
not like it's just like, hey, Sunday, this is what you do, or hey, this is what you're doing during the week. There's all kinds of things that pop up during the week. I mean, it just at any given time. So you don't know exactly what is going to come. So
I don't think I've ever shared this with you, but I thank God that you've always been you've been very gracious.
Wow.
And kind and accepting of my calling. And times I've had to be away. I thank you.
So I view your work as important, eternal, right?
Wow, that's a bigger weight now.
That's a way to put it.
And so, I confess, there have been times when I've been disappointed. Mm-hmm. When you've shared, I have to do X, when I was hoping that we could do, Y together. But I do recognize the importance of this work, and part of my role is to support you in that work. I can say, and I guess I share this as a cautionary tale for you and your listeners, that you want to make sure that you have time together, like you're intentional in that time together.
Oh, you just said a whole mouthful.
And I would also say to both of you, and as Stacey said, your listeners as well, and to you, Nick. And I pray that you're doing it. If not, you have to be dogmatic about it sometimes. It's okay to say no to some things in ministry, because I was just having this conversation with one of my colleagues at work today. When I leave, they're going to find another Robert. There'll be somebody else to pick up the slack. And so there have been times in ministry, like recently, we may get into this, we went on vacation. And thank God, we all in the ministry whereby we've identified who's going to be what where. But I've been a part of ministries whereby,
Yeah.
like I don't pastor a church, and I don't plan. God gonna have to really speak to my heart to pastor a church. But I've always had an issue. I've always had an issue, and this is my personal issue, with a pastor who gets up every week to preach, especially when that pastor has ministers.
Yes.
And I'm like, because ministry, whatever you do, we're all in ministry.
Right.
Ministry is, 'cause like Stacey puts out the communication, but Stacey, we talked about this early, Stacey puts a lot of thought, effort, and energy into doing what she does. About something I've always admired about my wife.
Yeah.
If she gets a task, she really gets into that task because she wants to do it to the best of her ability. So when you're in it takes ministry exhausts and depletes. And if you're not careful, you can run yourself into the ground in ministry. This is why you see a lot of these older guys, who are just shells of themselves. Or they pick up other addictions and make bad decisions because they're just always going. And after a while, you're going to burn out. And so I've tried I'm trying my best to conserve, what I have, because like I work for a living. I have a job.
Right.
I have a wife. I have a daughter.
Right.
And I got other people. We have other people in our lives that, we have family, right?
Right.
And we love the Lord. But it's okay to say no to some things, because if you don't, and if you're, and I know, of course I know you, but you all are high functioning people. You all are. You're driven. Everybody at this table is driven. But if we don't take the time to replenish and refresh, man, we can go off a cliff, in a heartbeat. And I've seen it. It's happened to me. It's happened to me.
You said a whole mouthful there.
And I'll just share this real quick story, and I'll be quiet. But a few years ago, doing one of the, I'm a teacher, right? And one of the stressful times for a teacher is like at the end of a semester. And I'm grading papers, and Stacey's at work. I think Hannah was at school, and I'm at home grading papers, right? Mm-hmm. And I know the signs of a heart attack, and all the signs of a heart attack I'm experiencing.
Oh Lord!
And I'm like, wait a minute, this is not good. And I tried to ignore it, but I'm like, okay. 20 minutes later, I'm like, no,
something don't feel right.
This is not good. I called 911. They came. They took my blood pressure. I'm embarrassed to say my blood pressure. I should have been dead.
Wow.
Yeah. They got me. They walked me downstairs, put me on the gurney, put me in the ambulance, and got me to the ER. But because I was doing so much and didn't realize the pressure and the stress I was under, and hadn't taken any time off to take care of myself, and that's another lesson in and of itself. And you got to take care, and doing the work that we're doing. You're dealing with, you all run the grief ministry. Stacey does a lot of ministry. Plus, Stacey at one point in time recently was they have a term for, I'm going to say president. She was the president of her sorority's graduate chapter. Yeah. And she's leading 500 women.
Ooh.
How many was it? It became 500 when you left.
That's not important.
That's still a lot.
That's not important.
She was leading over 300 women.
Wow.
And eventually, but a lot of women, right? And just all the pressure and stress and everything that came from that, it's a lot, right? And if you don't take time for yourself, man, especially, and then you put ministry and all the things that we have going on, man. It's if you don't take the time, it's not going to be. You're not going to be good for anybody, and that's the story. You're not going to be good for anybody.
So, that's one of the main things that I guess we are dealing with right now.
We are, because not to mention you guys are parents too. So it's I'm just like Nick and I, we're embarking on this journey to parenthood as well. in addition to us working full-time jobs, Nick, not only is he a minister, but he actually he's on the back line, sound, audio, visual, for basically a lot of services as well, in addition to being a minister. So it's a lot, y'all. And plus we're newlyweds, so.
And plus we're trying for children. So like when you said you've taken on engagements and didn't consult with your wife first, I was like, oh, yep, that's me. And one thing that I'm learning is, I'm married now. And like, I think I said it earlier, I can go 100 and be like, well, I'm gonna rest whenever I get a chance.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Teresa has been a great help in letting me know that I can't. And she's like, I know this is your calling, but your first calling is your family. It's like, you know what? You're right. Yeah. And it's a difficult balance because I haven't had the balance for the first 38 years of my life. And then the way that we were raised in church, it was like,
it's serve. It's
serve.
Then family, and that's totally backwards.
And I've seen too many families get torn apart by serving the church and neglecting their family. And so, like with Teresa and I, we made a promise to ourselves, and it's, we made the promise, but now we got to put our foot to that promise. And it was good when we said it, but it's like, okay, well,
now we're having to really navigate and figure it out.
And that's difficult because, like I said, I've been doing this way for a minute. So, like when you told us the story about taking time for ourselves and they're going to find somebody if you're not there, it really hits home. Because me taking on that battle, I can't do it by myself.
Right.
So.
Yeah, because I would say for me growing up and being in church so much, and even my mom, she had said this recently. She was like, growing up, that's all we knew. We just knew just church. We didn't know like it was God, marriage and family, and then church. She was like, growing up, we didn't have those tools. Nobody spoke to us about that. We were just told, hey, it's just church. I can remember being in church way before my sister was born. Shout out to Tawana. We're 5 years apart. I remember, being drugged to those revivals and everything, and people anoint me and oil running down. My mama had to keep a washcloth and wiping it off my head and all that good stuff. Like, I was little. And just seeing that growing up, like even my mom had said recently, she was like, I wish I had known that. Because her and my dad are divorced. But she was like, I wish I had known to, the order. Nobody taught us. We just knew church. That's how we were raised. I wish I had known that. And she said maybe there were some things that happened, with me and my sister that church was just put in front of us. And my dad as well. And I think things could have been different had someone spoken, to them and just said, hey, take time out, for your family, this, that. But growing up in sometimes like a denomination, certain denominations have different traditions. So sometimes you're abiding by that. It's like, no, this is the way it's been done. This is always, if you don't do it this way, you stray away from that path, that's it for you. So I think, and my parents are pretty young, so I just feel like they probably felt the pressure of like, I have to do, like, this is the way I was taught. This is how my parents did it. This is how, we were taught. We have to do it this way. And if we stray away from that, maybe our kids won't, learn those ways as well. I've always been a rebel against that. And I think my parents can tell you that. I think I've always been kind of like the little black sheep about that, because it's just like, nope. Like, I don't think this is of God. I don't think God wants us to be in church like this all the time, stomach growling.
I would argue that your relationship, your marriage is a ministry
It is
in itself. That
thank
you are showing the world an example of a Christian marriage, what a marriage should look like.
Yes.
And you are model for young couples, for young people, for anyone really to observe and see. Just like my major professor shared with me, people are going to be watching you. People are watching you.
Yes.
And so you are that example for the world, and therefore you have a responsibility to nurture your relationship. And you have a responsibility to take care of yourself, because you can't serve effectively if you're not well. If you're not well physically or mentally. And so, say no, right? And, do the work, yes, and give your all to it, but know that you have to have that balance. You have to be intentional about it. You have to take time for yourselves and time to be with each other.
I'm so glad that you said that, Stacey, because Nick and I always say marriage is our first ministry. Is our first ministry.
Yep.
And while we were dating, I was like, "Look, I can't say nothing now because we're not married." I said, "Oh, but baby, well, that last name is Crawford. I'm gonna be using a veto stamp as the spouse. No, he cannot do it. No." And so we laugh about it because we joke about it all the time. Because Nick would be like, "Well," I'd be like, "No, he can't do it. Sorry, love you." But that's one of the things I like. Me and Nick, excuse me. We have a standing date night, and I'm a little more like strict on that. And I'm pretty sure you guys probably heard me say that during our marriage ministry meetings at church. Because one thing I've learned throughout this grief ministry, because we have quite a bit of widows that are in that grief ministry as well. One thing it has taught me is to be more intentional, because either one of us can be gone. And just to see what they are going through, that really, it resonates with me, because I'm just like, at any given point, my husband can be taken away from me. God could be like, hey, vice versa. And that's why I'm more intentional about us spending time together, because we're now, I won't say we're at a crossroads, but we're navigating ministry, because Nick is gone every Saturday morning, every Sunday morning. And I'm just like, when I was like, okay, Lord, when I got married, I sleeping late on Saturdays, waking up, cooking some breakfast, and maybe going to breakfast. I roll over, it's just like, oh, okay. He gone
you can cook
again.
You can cook breakfast on Saturday. You just got to.
It's not the same. Like, it's waking up, not brushing our teeth. We just going downstairs in our pajamas and just cooking breakfast and being in love and all that. And the thing for us is that I stressed to Nick, I was like, look, we're newlyweds. I was like, I'm not being funny. I said, the people that are asking you this, they've been married 20 plus years. We don't have that yet. And we're just trying to cultivate our marriage. I said, it's not that we don't want to serve, but at the same time, we need that balance for us, because I'm definitely working a lot of long hours during the week with my job. He works, during the week as well. So it's just like, hey, babe, when do we find time? Because, we do have to serve the needs of others, of course. And I by no means am I undermining that at all. But I often ask him, like, hey, when is it going to be time for us? When... Yes. And sometimes there have been some date nights we just ain't make it. The date nights was on the couch because we were tired. We're just tired. But being intentional, that's just been me. And even with some of the Bible plans that we do, focused on marriage and improving our marriage daily, it talks about that, just creating that balance. So that's super important to me. Nick will probably hear me talk about this till the cows come home, but
the thing about ministry. Okay, here's a realization: there's always going to be needs.
Definitely,
plural.
Yes.
There's always going to be needs, right? And here's the reality: is that particular need? Does that need to be met at that time? Because sometimes there's nothing we can do. That's true. Now, it's like when when Jesus showed up to Lazarus' grave, they were, had you come, earlier, he, our brother would have been, well, you know what? I'm here now.
Right.
I'm here now, and let me perform this miracle, and we can move on. I don't want to sound cavalier about the word, but that's really that's what happened. And I think sometimes, we have to help people calibrate and see where we are, because sometimes, and I've done it, right? Unfortunately, yes, oh wow, and getting into, especially if it's something that you love to do,
right,
and you have a passion for, and you're gifted to do it. I get the zeal for it, but okay, I liken it to sometimes buying a house. When people buy a house, sometimes they're just so happy that their credit is good and they got the loan. Yeah. That hallelujah, we got the house. But do we think about, okay, once we get in it, are we gonna stay in this for the rest of our life? Are we gonna sell it? Will the market conditions be ideal for us to sell? Are we gonna leave it to our children? Are we gonna flip it, so to speak? Those questions are rarely asked. We're just trying to get in, right?
Right.
And in ministry, we're just jumping in, right? And Paul had something very interesting to say about ministry and about people in ministry. He said, lay hands on no man suddenly. Make sure that you have the right people in ministry. But not only that the ministry is set up and designed to give people the rest and relief they need. I always use this as an example. When you read Luke chapter 10, the Bible says that Jesus sent out the 70 2 by 2. The point is Jesus had help. He had help.
Yes.
We know he had the 12 disciples, right? And I don't know if those 12 were included in the 70 in Luke 10, but we know that he had 70.
Yeah.
And he sent them out 2 by 2, so he had help. And sometimes you have to, I'll use your word, veto. Sometimes you have to let people know where you are in life as it relates to ministry. Hey, I would love to do it, but we're going away for this weekend, or we have other plans. Or I just need this time away. I mean, we do it at work, right?
Right.
Yeah, we do it at work.
We take PTO.
Hey, listen. I'm done. But when it comes to ministry, sometimes it's like hard for us to say no, right? And I think about that often, and I try to be very. I try to be very intentional about accepting invitations or taking on tasks, because after a while, like you said, I mean, when I was growing up, I grew up in church, right?
Right.
But the days we went were Saturday mornings, which I could not stand because that got in the way of cartoons, it got in the way of basketball.
Not cartoons.
Yes, nothing like Saturday morning cartoons. Some kids will never know about that, right? Schoolhouse Rock, and then of course, exactly. And then American Bandstand right after that. Yeah.
Focus.
Okay, yeah, focus. Get carried away.
I'm sitting over here like, who's American Bandstand?
Dick Clark, don't worry about it.
So if you guys don't know, there is an age difference between Nick and I. It's not that much, but I remember all those things. He'd just be like, what? I'd be like, oh gosh, you just remind me of my age every time. But anyway.
but then we were on, but Sunday. So for us, it was Saturday and Sunday growing up. Sunday was always, and I never said, choir rehearsal. I don't even know why I was in the choir because I couldn't sing, but I was in choir rehearsal. But it was Saturday. But like during the week, we didn't go to church. We didn't go to like no prayer meetings during the week. We didn't go to Bible studies during the week. It was only until, when we got married and got into ministry that we were going to start going Bible studies and, prayer meetings and this happening. And all of a sudden, like, wait a minute, all 5 days of the week can be consumed doing something in ministry. Plus, we all attend the same church. Plus Sabbath service and Sunday service. So that's 7 days a week, right?
Yeah.
That can, if you're not careful, all those days can be consumed doing something, right?
Yes.
And it's just good to say, hey, you know what? I'll give you a recent example. We had a couple in our church who came back from vacation, and they had been out for like 2 weeks. And, we had the prayer line every morning, right?
Yep.
And these two, husband and wife, they pray on the prayer line on Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tuesday, Wednesday morning. And I asked them, on Sunday or Monday, I said, are you all up to pray in the morning? Do you need something really? Now the wife said, yes, I want to step back and step out. And the husband said, I'm good for Wednesday. So I just filled in for the wife. But we got to take those moments to watch out for each other.
Definitely.
And at the same time, though, let people know this is where we are. And this is what we're trying to get accomplished. And we may not be around, on this day for a while, right?
Right.
Because we're trying to get some things done. And I know sometimes that's a big ask, especially we're in a small ministry, right?
Yeah.
But even in big ministries, they have some of the same issues and problems because
they do.
They may not have one person on the board, but they may have 7, and they need all 7 on the back line.
Right.
And if one person goes out, then that can be. Stacey served in the studio. It was called one of our churches called Studio P, where she operated one of the big cameras for the broadcast. And if they had folk who didn't, and we had multiple services, and if they had one person who didn't show up on the camera because all the camera angles are important, right?
Right.
If they had one person who didn't show up, then that's it. And this is a I guess you could say a mega church, right? So, but I still think it's important that we let people know what we have going on, and being very intentional, like you said. And I'll say this last thing: the Bible does say this very clear. Paul said, "How can a man be a bishop or a pastor of a church, and he's not a bishop? First of all, he needs to be a bishop or pastor at his own home."
That part. That part. That's super important. So, I know for Nick and I, sometimes I'm like, "Hey, when we gonna have time to work on Baby Crawford?" Because I'm just like, I ain't getting no younger. And it's funny because it's like we envision like with Nick being on the back line, I was like, he'll have a little baby carrier and the baby would be sitting there on the back line too, like
pushing buttons.
Train them up early.
So like that's usually for me. I'm always the one like, nope, he can't do it. Nope. He'll be like, well, babe, this is how I know he's gonna ask something, because he'll be like, hey babe, what you doing tomorrow? And I'm looking like, we both work from home. What you mean what we doing tomorrow? It's date night tomorrow. He'll be like, well, I got asked to, and I'll just be like, yes, what are they asking? All right, I'm not gonna be a sore loser. And it's something that Stacey said, is that when you are in that supportive role of someone that is heavy in ministry, sometimes you do have to extend that grace, because a lot of times, again, as we said before, it's unpredictable. Needs are unpredictable. Things will come up, and you just sometimes, and I have to actually pray and ask for forgiveness, because sometimes in my head I'm just like, dang it, like trying to work on Baby Crawford. I ain't seen my husband. I ain't, aside from barely eating dinner and being sleepy and going to bed, I'm like, when I had time to really love on my husband. And so, it got to a point, and I will admit, I'm being transparent, it got to a point at one time, and this was recently, where I started to resent the church a little bit. And I was just like, this is not the road I want to go down. I was like, okay, this is not God. Let me step back.
But it's real though. I mean, that can happen. I mean, that's a byproduct of it all. I mean, yeah. I mean, I've been there. I'm like, man, I'm tired of all of this. I'm tired of y'all. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of that. And now, should it be like that? No. But is it like that? Okay,
it's real.
Should it be like that? Maybe it should. Because what's going to push?
Well, you made an important comment earlier, in your comments earlier, when you talked about how we as a community need to watch out for one another.
Yeah.
That's definitely important.
In order for the community to watch out for us to watch out for each other, we have to be open and transparent and share where we are with each other. Otherwise, we don't know. Right. And so when the request comes to serve on X night, then the response is, well, that's our date night. And then the community knows, okay, that's the Crawford's date night.
Right.
And, we're going to keep that date sacred. Now, say it's something big that has come up.
Yeah.
And there's no way around it. Then
That's different.
that's an opportunity to extend grace and say, okay, but as long as everyone in the room recognizes this is an important time.
Definitely.
This is the Crawford's date night. We're making an exception tonight.
Yes.
This is beyond the norm.
Right.
We're all on the same page. Okay, let's make it work.
And I feel like Teresa, she's done a wonderful job in extending grace to me as I serve. And I appreciate you for it, because it's a job that not too many people could take and carry it well. So,
one of the things recently, and I have to do it, right? You and so I think you all know I lead prayer Tuesday night, right?
Yeah.
And I've been very cavalier, very reluctant, and just really, in some cases lazy, not doing it. Like, I need to know how to work the sound. I do, set everything up, because right now we have a young, right, because right now we only have it's in, you hear about this in the military. I wasn't in the military, I just heard about it. I keep repeating it. This whole idea of cross training, right? So like when one person goes down, another person needs to know that person's responsibility so we can keep the mission going forward. Right now we have a 19-year-old Alyssa. She might be 20, I don't know. 19 or 20.
Shout out Alyssa.
Yeah, shout out to Alyssa, who sets up our sound and audio on Tuesday night. So all I have to do is just get a chair and sit down and welcome everybody and pray, right? But it's been Nick on some nights as well. And I think one of the things that we have to do is not only be right, we gotta look out for each other, but we also have to be willing to learn some of the things. This is a ministry now. Learn some of the things that other people are doing, because there will be a day and time.
Yeah.
In our ministry, me and Pastor joke about this. We don't joke about it. Actually, it's a joke now, right? But when the ministry started, the guy that read all the slides and everything was Angelo, his son.
Yep, it was.
And
I
we were
remember.
Like, okay, Angelo's going to college. Who's going
Like,
to do
who's
all
gonna be
this?
doing
Right? Who's going to run? What's going to happen now? But we had other people step in and just praise God, right? But it's having a willingness to see what the needs are and to be willing to address those needs and take ownership of others of other people's tasks and duties. Because if not, Pastor did tell me one thing a while ago, and we starting to see some of it happen. Praise God. He said, and Pastor calls me by my last name, Lyons. He said, Lions, we got to figure out a way to clone ourselves. So we have to figure out, okay, who's going to be the next Robert who leads prayer on Tuesday night? Who's going to be the next Nick, Smitty, and everybody else out back there on the back, Paula on the back line. Yeah. Who's going to be the next Deacon Neil? Because we have a phenomenal older gentleman in our ministry who, at 81, 82 years old, he is the picture of health, and man, not only the picture, he gets around like nobody's business.
Yes, shout out to Deacon Neil.
Yeah,
and Mama Neil too.
Yeah, Mama Neil. So, but the reality is, people move, people leave.
Right.
And my dad had this saying, probably heard it. He's like, man, one monkey don't stop the show. That was his thing.
Oh boy.
So how do we replace these monkeys?
That's true.
Is the key, because people do leave, people do move on, and I think that's a question that we need to ask ourselves. And I think more importantly, when we're looking at relationships, right, and marriages, and how do you find a balance? And sometimes, there's, okay, I want to do this for the Lord, because sometimes that's the pressure, right? I want to do this for the,
that is the pressure.
I want to do this for the Lord, but the Lord did. The Lord did. The Lord gave me Stacey, right?
Yeah.
The Lord gave me Stacey. The Lord gave me Teresa, and vice versa. And so we are responsible for helping to take care of each other, our spouses.
Definitely.
And that looks, it takes on different forms, right? Like today we actually both went and worked out.
All right. Hey, me and Nick are just getting back in there because, woo.
Hey, you know what? Do what you can.
Jesus.
But
Happy weight.
Yeah, but it's a way of recognizing and realizing that this is our way of helping to take care of each other by taking care of ourselves.
Right.
In some shape, form, or fashion, right? And that looks, but think about it. If I said, well, I'm going to be at the church doing this, right? Because there's always going to be a need, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have worked out, right? Or after I came from church, I've been too tired to work out, right? So I think those things need to be taken into consideration as we continue to balance, relationships with each other.
That is church life balance. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Great conversation so far, guys. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to jump back into just a conclusion. Just wanted the Lyons to share with us, how did they overcome their challenges? Like, what are some useful tools that Nick and I can use and our listeners can use, when it comes to balancing that church life balance? Because again, not only with your marriage, but your personal lives too, because you are two individuals, and then you are also parents. And so me and Nick, we're just starting, on that journey. We pray, for that journey to parenthood. So that's one thing that we want to touch on when we come back, and we'll wrap this episode up. So thank you, guys.
All right, we'll be back.
All right. And we are back, guys, back with the Candidly Crawford podcast with our esteemed guests, Stacey and Minister Robert Lyons, Dr. Minister Lyons. And we have been talking about church life balance, just some of the challenges between balancing ministry and life, period. Of course, we, with the calling, but just wife to wife, that's one of the things I definitely want to touch on, because that's kind of one of my struggle areas right now is, learning how to extend grace, but being real about my feelings about it. Because sometimes I'll be like, no, I don't want you to go. So we actually are going to jump into one last question for the Lyons. Being that you guys have been doing this for quite some time, and being that me and Nick, we are still embarking on our journey, what has helped you guys to overcome those challenges? Like Stacey, you mentioned, extending grace. It's not always easy because you do want to be selfish and be like, he's mine. I haven't had him all week. How dare you call him? It's like, no. And that's how I feel. And then likewise for you, Minister Lyons, Dr. Minister, how, what has helped you guys both individually and as a couple to overcome those challenges when ministry presents itself? Because sometimes it's not always smooth sailing. It can be, y'all could be good, no hiccups, nothing going on. And then all of a sudden, one week you could just get called on like all week, and you just like, alrighty. All right, how are we going to navigate this? So no date night tonight, no date night this week, no date night next week. How did you guys balance that? So my question to you is, what tools or what methods did you guys use to help overcome those challenges when it caused a rift in your marriage and family life?
Your question suggests
Right. Should I say, did you guys experience challenges? I don't want to just assume there were challenges or rifts. And what I mean by rift, not saying it tore your marriage apart, nothing like that. But what I'm saying is, like, it caused times to where, say for Minister Lyons, he may have been torn, like, okay, this, I get it. Technically, I haven't been able to spend time with my wife or my child like all week, and then now this is one of those things I can't say no to.
When I say your question suggests, I was going to say,
oh, sorry.
It suggests that there haven't been problems, but I can't say that we have done that navigating well the whole 28 years. That's not our story. It's One challenge, well, it's very easy to decide to go your separate ways.
Yeah.
It's easy to say, okay, well, he has all of this to do and, he's busy and I'm not going to sit here alone watching TV. I'm going to get busy doing my thing.
That's been me.
And before long, you're doing separate things. You're living in the same house. And, with our story, it wasn't that, there was a rift between us. We weren't fighting or arguing or, we weren't angry with each other or anything like that. We were just simply coexisting.
Right.
Oh, that's good.
And, that's not what you want in your relationship.
Definitely not.
And that went on for years
Wow.
even. And so how do you balance life and ministry and work and everything? You do your own thing, right? But that's not the way.
Right.
That's not the godly way to manage things. And so I am impressed with the two of you. Impressed that you are having these critical conversations. You're having these critical conversations early in your marriage, and that you are serving together. You're both leading the grief ministry.
Yeah.
Robert and I, were serving in the church, but we weren't serving together. There wasn't a ministry that we, served over together. Yes, we, helped coordinate Bible study when we were at Grambling. And, I would support him in his work. He had a food service ministry. And so, I would help him with that. But it wasn't until we led the marriage ministry many years later, with our current ministry, where, we were serving in a capacity together. So Robert and I, we went to counseling to, talk it out with a neutral professional, right?
Yes.
And to, acquire different tools that we could use. And I would say one thing that came out of that experience is what we talked about earlier, being intentional about spending time together. And I believe it's as simple as that, to, keep your date nights sacred, find time daily to check in with each other, and recognize when you see that the other person is working. Call it to your partner's attention. You've been out all week and I miss you. So, let's plan something together. And it gives you something to look forward to. You're sitting at work and you're like, I'm going to see my
when I get off
when
work,
I get home, right?
Clicking on that mouse, you be like, "Ooh, let me hear if I get this done. Oh, what time is? Oh, let me go."
Right, but it brings fun and excitement and something to look forward to. And that doesn't have to be every day, but you plan something regularly, it gives you something to look forward to, and that will sustain you.
Oh, that is such good advice, man.
Yeah.
I'm ready to plan already, babe.
But it speaks to something that I really haven't mastered at this juncture in my life. I'm better.
Yeah.
Now I always make this statement. Sometimes I'm a jokester, right? But I said, I've always said, I thought I was organized until I got married, because I sit next to one of the best organized people I know. So my version of being organized, like, whoa, that's what organization looks like. But seriously, it's we talk about being a couple, but we are individuals who come together to make a couple. And so for me, as an individual, I have to take it upon myself. For me, and I struggle with organization. I'm not gonna lie. I work in a profession where you have to be, but it's something I still deal with.
Yeah.
And I have to realize that if I get organized to the best of my ability, that makes life a lot better for Stacey. Because if I'm not, And there have been times I'm not, and I still deal with it because I have a tendency to be a little bit more spontaneous with things, right? Or I don't see tasks sometimes as being as difficult as they sometimes are, right? So if I'm able to take care of some of the things on my end, and take care of myself, that's going to bode well for us. Yeah, we do need to be. I will continue to say this. Our past week where we celebrate our anniversary and did all these, we spent in Mexico and Cancun, did all these great excursions. I kept thanking Stacey the whole time we were there because she planned this.
Wow.
And it was beautiful, and everything was thought out and planned. And I got to get to that point because I when we were dating, I was that guy, right? I was the planner, and I got to get back to that. Yeah. So my advice would be, especially to the guys, is to ensure that, number one, that you're in your own personal life, your work life, whatever. Take care of that piece. Get that organized, right? If there are friends that aren't friends, fine. If there are, and recognize who these people are, because sometimes you have people in your life who are assets, and sometimes you have people in your lives who are liabilities. And recognize who they are, because some of these people aren't going anywhere. Some of these people who are liabilities aren't going anywhere. Okay, fine, but recognize who they are, and recognize, more importantly, how you deal with them, these people. And to that extent, this helps you, kind of get your life in order so that you can spend quality time with your spouse. I mean, even tonight, although we didn't plan this, we didn't plan it ahead of time, but actually we're going out to eat.
Yeah.
After this, we are, and that may not sound sexy and this, that, and the other.
No,
but
that's huge.
It's time that we get to spend together.
Yeah.
Well, right now, I don't know where we're going, but we're going to go somewhere, right?
Right.
And we always end up at this one particular Mexican restaurant. It's our default place. They know us, right?
You might have to share, because me and Nick, we could. I really think that we were born to eat Mexican cuisine, because we be like, "What you want, Mexican?" Yep.
So, but it's an opportunity for us to spend time together in a week that's been consumed by so much,
right?
And you mentioned, family, right? We do have a daughter, and just today, she shared some good news with us that I guess we kind of knew was coming, maybe. all this going on, maybe, but when I look at it, I'm like, oh Lord, and sometimes when you have children, sometimes they're great to have. It's truly a blessing. Sometimes you have to talk them off the ledge, right? So it's, now we're psychologists and comforters and everything else, right? So but it's just part of it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just can't let those things. I mean, what my daughter's dealing with, I can't let that interrupt. I mean, we love her, right?
Of course.
We've done all we can to help the situation, and that's fine. But we're still going out to eat after. We are going out to eat after this. And I think that's, get organized, get your life as best you possibly can in order. One thing I would share with you guys and your listeners: expect the unexpected and be willing to embrace it. I mean,
that's good.
When you look at the life of times of Jesus, there were people running up to him wanting things out of nowhere, right?
That's true.
And he had to stop and deal with it, right? It was the woman with the issue of blood came and touched him. He was like, "Wait a minute, what just happened?"
Yeah.
So that's just the life and times of ministry that we find ourselves in. Get yourself organized. Know that sometimes the things that are going to happen, be unexpected. Be flexible, and be gracious. It does take a lot, because this is a work that we were called to do.
Right.
And it can be. It's not. Sometimes it's just not pretty work. It's just not dealing with people who are going through trauma. It becomes your trauma, right?
Right. That's true.
And it's just one of those things I've had to tell Stacey recently. You all know, we had a member pass. hey, call you by your nickname. I'm going to the hospital to pray with sister so and so and their child, and I was there when the doctor came in and told the child that they have cancer.
Yeah, that.
And just something I didn't expect. I was going up there just to pray,
right, that
she be well, but I didn't go there to hear a doctor say that you got cancer. It's one of those things, and I have to deal with it. I'll be honest with you. Sometimes some of the stuff I'm dealing with, I'm reluctant to tell Stacey because I don't want that to become her burden. So I had to tell, say, hey, I eventually told her, it's like, hey, this woman's daughter got cancer, right? And she realized, and shout out to my wife. Stacey was very understanding in that moment. Like, I didn't know if you wanted to do X, Y, and Z. I know you're dealing with a lot, because I was like, man, gosh, how do you talk to somebody that just heard their daughter got cancer? Or they hurt them themselves.
That's tough.
So get yourself organized and just begin to expect the unexpected and show each other some grace during the whole period. And I think these are some of the things that we can use to help each other, journey together.
Thank you. Both of you gave great, I would say excellent advice, especially again because Nick and I we're navigating this journey now, and again it just I think this was on time, to be honest, because of my feelings, because with the grief ministry it's a lot. And you guys know it's a lot. It's the constant, checking on people. And Lord knows, I'm not saying I have a passion for it. I love it. But sometimes it can weigh heavy on me because I'm just like, hey, I'm dealing with my own stuff over here. Mm-hmm. I'm dealing with stuff at work. And then now, I'm listening to this person and my heart just hurts. And Nick comes in and he balances me out. He'll be like, all right, don't stay on this too long. Like, you can't bring that home. You can't bring that here into our marriage. So I thank God for Nick because he balances me out in that way, because I am very empathetic, almost to a fault, and it could go a little far sometimes, and I'll just be laying in bed crying after I just spoke to somebody. I was like, Lord, I don't want him to hurt anymore. I'm just so sorry. And he just looks at me like, he'll like, come here, babe. Yeah, we'll start praying, and it is a lot. It's Lord, it's a lot. So again, we've learned a lot. Just sometimes I think when you're going through it, it's like some of those things to do, but just hearing it and hearing what your journey and you guys sharing your story, it helps put it into perspective. Because sometimes, like I said, I felt guilty for. I was like, no, like I haven't seen my husband all week. We haven't spent time with each other. We ain't had a date night in 3 months. Like, no, like the answer is no.
And it's like, as you feel guilty, I feel guilty for accepting it. Like, and I'm leaving, and it's like, well, I'll talk to you when I get back. But I thank you both for coming.
Definitely.
Like when I met Teresa, she was like, you have to meet the Lyons. I was like, okay.
I did say that.
And so like you guys mean the world to us. I might not say it, but I'll tell Teresa, I'm like, man, those are some cool people. And then like just sitting and listening to you guys share your story, it was like, oh wow, no, I see why she wants me to meet them. So, but yeah, this was a great episode.
This was definitely a great episode, and thank you guys for being transparent and vulnerable enough to share like the ugly side and also the best sides of it as well. And we also thank our listeners. Shout out to Uplift Christian Ministries, Pastor Lionel Means, and First Lady Ashaki. We love you guys, the Uplift family, of course. And shout out to the ministers out there. Shout out to those who are laboring in ministry, because it is not, I think in some other words, sometimes it's glamorized to a fault, and people can it's like a misconception that people can get, because they're just like, oh, well, you have that title now, you have to talk this way, you have to walk this way. You're important now, hey, as long as I'm doing the work of the Lord. But then your family is suffering, your marriage is suffering, your personal life is suffering. Like, me and Nick, we talk all the time about not getting into the business of doing busy work in the church, but being effective. Yeah. Having an effective ministry, making sure it's effective, making sure that we're not just doing church, but we're also being the church. So that is one thing that we talk about constantly, and it's just our prayer that, again, we can take what we've learned from you guys, and of course other godly couples as well, and hopefully you guys have learned as well, of how to apply these tools. And one key thing you said, Stacey, was counseling. And I'm telling you, in my personal life, therapy has been a wonder. Nick and I, we like to, and it's coming up. We have to schedule that. We're a little behind.
Yes.
But we've said when we got married, we would have a check-in every 6 months with a licensed professional, just to say, hey, making sure we're good to go. And even if we didn't get to the 6 months, I think we're past due now, but we have those talks to make sure that we ourselves, just in our personal life and our marriage, we could be effective for each other and for our marriage, and to continue to grow. Because like Minister Lyons said, if you just, if you're burnt out yourself, you're not going to be effective to nobody, your spouse, church, nobody. So that's super important. But again, thank you guys for joining us. We love y'all so much.
I love you too.
We love you.
We ain't gonna put y'all business out there about y'all about to leave, but nonetheless.
How you gonna say that?
I'm gonna stalk y'all. You might see a random FaceTime. Hey,
That's
what y'all doing?
perfectly fine.
Yeah, check in on us. Yeah.
I'm telling you guys, like the Lions, I will say they have labored long and hard in the ministry. Especially way before I knew them, before we came to the same church. And Nick has been actually a witness of that too. So we love you guys. Like, you guys have done some great work and have been very impactful to those you may not even know. So keep going forward. Please, I know it may get hard. Look at us trying to tell y'all, some advice.
I'm
feeling good right now.
Oh, you got a word?
Yeah, I got a word, baby. I got a word.
Okay.
But no, just keep doing what you're doing, because it inspires young couples like me and Nick.
Yes.
I won't say I'm too young, but
Claim it. Yes.
But it definitely is a true testament of how we can continue to navigate and learn from you and others of how to be effective just all around. So thank you guys.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you
We
for having
love
us.
y'all.
Yeah,
So
love y'all too.
we will say, if you guys have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, Candidly Crawford, follow us on all social media. TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, everything is Candidly Crawford. You can listen to this podcast audio on wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Definitely watch this on YouTube. You can also watch it on Spotify, because Spotify does video podcasts.
Yes.
So definitely, any last words? One of y'all ministers want to pray? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
No last words. I just want a cheesecake. I think the Lord is saying.
Yeah,
Okay, so y'all may or may not know one tiny thing. Minister Lyons here, man.
He's a man of many talents.
A man of many talents, but that cheesecake, ooh, glory.
I think we almost got in a fight for the last piece.
Yeah, we did. It was ugly. It was a little friction in our house over that last piece, because
Even the dog jumped in like, I want a piece too.
yeah, so it was a little ugly. So I was like, you know what? Before y'all make y'all trek across the country, we would like a cheesecake, please. Thank you, sir. Please and thank you.
Like 2 cheesecakes.
Yes, we could just cut it up and put it in the freezer and
one for
each of you.
Yeah,
yes.
one for each. Yes.
So yes.
I guess we're going to have to start working out tonight.
Yeah, but I'm going to eat that cheesecake though. Anyway, love you guys. Make sure you follow us on all social media. I'm not going to put y'all business out there like that. Only if y'all want to share where y'all are, because I know y'all are in the education profession, higher education, and I don't want y'all students stalking y'all, but Nonetheless,
Follow us. Subscribe to us.
follow us and subscribe to us.
Yes.
And you'll see the lions. So thank you guys. We love you.
Love you.
Bye.
Peace.
Bye.